5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello everybody, my name is Rebecca Shrader and I'm here talking with Leeron Liftik today about the different types of default and what to do when you're in that situation. Leeron, to start us off, would you please tell our viewers what are the various types or stages of default?
Good question. So the first one, your credit is impacted by anything that is past due from 30 days of the date it was due. In other words, if your payment's due on April 1st, the following month, which would be May 1st, is when you'd start to experience a credit impact, and that's known as a 30-day late. And then if you didn't pay your mortgage again, you would be 2 months down. You'd be 60 days late. It's usually around the time of being 60 days down that most lenders' availability of programs for hardship solutions, foreclosure alternatives become much more available. Before that, is very limited in the solutions that they have available. And then the next consequential one is 90 days late. Now, when you're 90 days late, there's a whole bunch of things that in the state of Washington become important for the deed of trust, which is that the lender at 90 days delinquency now has the right to accelerate foreclosure on the property, which means they can post a notice of default, and I'll talk about that in a second. They can require you to pay every penny that you owe them and nothing less in terms of requiring a solution. So if you have a ton of equity in your home and you fall 90 days down and they post a notice of default, it may be the case that without paying every nickel you owe them all in one lump sum, there's no alternative. So that's a very important piece. Now, it's after that 90 days that that notice of default can be posted. It's not always posted on day 90. Typically, it's considerably after that. But the next stage of default that's of consequence is they will physically tape to your door a notice that says notice of default. It tells you that you're in default on your mortgage, and unless you do something, they're going to sell your home at foreclosure. They're going to go through the foreclosure process. And then in this state, you have 30 days to validate or dispute or reinstate the loan. And if nothing happens after 30 days, they have the right, although they may not do it on day 30, they have the right to post what's called a notice of sale, which is the last stage of delinquency, where they'll, again, come out and physically post to your door a notice that says, your mortgage is in default. It's been 30 days since we posted it. Now we're going to sell your home in not less than 90 days on the courthouse steps, and it will give you a date. October 8th at 10 a.m. on the King County Courthouse steps, your property will be auctioned to the highest bidder. And now you have that 3-month time frame until your property is going to be sold. So that's kind of the default stages from current until sale.
Very conclusive. Now, is it evident as a homeowner, if you're in imminent default, what would be the best course of action to take? I realize that you've already spoken about the different levels that it goes through, but what for someone, let's say I'm the homeowner and it's imminent that I lost my job and my husband, let's say, is the only breadwinner and it's going to be hard to make that payment. So it's evident that we're going to need to do something. But I and he do not know what to do. So what's the next course of action again?
Get educated.
Yeah.
If that's the case for you, you are in the highest percentage case that we consult with by far. The largest number of people who we consult with are in exactly that circumstance. I know that hardship is coming. I know that, or it's here. And I know that in the future, although it hasn't happened yet, no matter what, I'm going to be in distress of my mortgage and be at high risk of being in default. What do I do? And the problem is there's not a lot of things you can do. So we wrote an entire book called, which is the second to Does My Bank Still Love Me, which is called To Pay or Not to Pay. When is it wrong to intentionally default on your mortgage payment? There's a recent statistic released by I want to say bankrate.com or Fannie or something like that. I'm sure I'll get yelled at what the thing is in a minute. But it basically said that over 30% of the properties that are in foreclosure now are in foreclosure due to what's called strategic default. Homeowners going, why should I keep paying $3,500 a month when my property is $200,000 underwater? And I'm trying to get a loan modification. They won't give me one because I'm current. I'm going to go ahead and go default 60, 90 days, and then I'll get what I want. There's 30% of those. So that's a tremendous number of people who are going, I could afford it, but I'm not going to. So To Pay or Not to Pay is really the book designed to say, what are the options and how do I pursue that? And essentially, in a nutshell, what it comes down to is you got to start making some choices about what you're willing and not willing to do.
Sounds like a definite book that I need to read after, now that I've read the first one that you have written. Now, if a person is in default, then at that point, they've chosen to, well, they haven't made their payments.
Yes.
And what should they do? So it's imminent, they're in the actual default, but they don't have the notice of sale yet.
Okay.
What is to be done at that point?
Well, hopefully, the best thing to do is the first instant that you think you may not make your mortgage payment at some point in the future. That very first instant. So you lose your job and you go, well, I only have enough savings for the next 28 months, and then I'm going to be default. Call right then. Start getting educated right then, because you have the benefit of time on your side. The faster you're in action over trying to figure out a solution, the more solutions you have available. So that's a very important thing. The more time goes on, the less options you have, the more benefits start to shrink. Think of it as like an exploding offer. So the best thing to do if you're in that category is get educated, talk to your lender about options. If you don't hire somebody, or you're not into reading or listening to podcasts or watching television or being in support of any type of information medium, call your lender and say, here's what the story is. What are my options? Be in action over it, because it's very likely that you can at very least slow the foreclosure process by being in communication. The worst thing you can do is hide under your bed and pull the sheets up over your eyes and go, no one can see me, because they can, and it's going to end up bad for you.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks, Leeron. That's excellent information. And we have more things to discuss, so we'll take a quick break and stay right with us.